What you're about to hear and whom you're about to meet is very, very important to your business if you're in real estate, and probably to your personal life. And if not to your personal life, certainly to people you know's personal life. Does anybody in the room know anybody with bad credit? The front half. Okay. All right. If you know somebody with bad credit, would you be doing them the favor of their life to help them get it cleaned up? Okay? You might even be related to them, huh? You might have your last name even, perhaps. All right? Are you going to find tons of tenants who are going to have bad credit that need your help? If you sell with owner financing, are they going to need their help to clean it up? Yes? And if you are buying from sellers, is it nice to know that you can offer that service to them? Yes? And it probably is a cool thing to know that even if everybody we come across to, even if we're not doing business with them, that maybe we might even be able to make a little bit of money by helping them get their credit cleaned up and referring them to Marion. Even though we have not discussed that yet, I'm sure he will handle that for you. So I'm going to give the mic to Mr. Marion Hales and let him tell you what he can do. I think.
How many of you have ever dealt with someone in credit repair? Been disappointed? How many of you know that they're a dime a dozen? What makes us different? I have a close relationship with the credit bureaus. Okay? I can only go so far in what I say. I have never had a formal complaint in 23 years. When I was doing the credit repair business or with that association, my credit got messed up. I looked up all the rules and regulations that are not published. And I made friends with an attorney for the credit bureau who gave me secrets like you wouldn't believe. And in 5 months, my score went from 500 to 827. You familiar with an 800 score? No. All right. I feel you. Okay. But before, I had to have a car awfully bad. And I went to try and get that car, and I was treated like dirt. People don't care about you if your score is not good. But if your score is good, now you're somebody. King somebody or queen somebody. Maybe we got those on the right sexes, but listen, when your score is good, people will bend over to help you because now we're going to buy and sell. And that's important. And it's important for you to know that you are somebody. Whether your score is cleaned up or not, you're somebody. And if you want to know, or other people to know that you're somebody, you got to know it first. Then get your credit cleaned up, and people will treat you like you're somebody. And you can buy and sell. And now let me tell you what I told the Platinum Group yesterday. We're doing more to help this economy than all the dignitaries in Washington, D.C., because we're plugging you back in society where you can buy and sell. I'm fed up with both parties. I'm fed up with everything they're doing. I don't trust them. Ooh, and it's aggravating. But we can do something. Now, again, 98% of all the people in credit repair don't know what they're doing. All they have access to is the public laws. The public laws let you challenge something, and if they get something off, and they're only partially successful in almost all cases, and some of them don't do anything. But when they get it off, it doesn't even stay off. Have you had that problem? Here's our promise. No matter how much we have to do or how long it's done, because we're doing it more thorough, and because we have the insider information, and because I've been doing it for 23 years without advertising, all by word of mouth, and I'm getting business from all 50 states and 16 foreign countries, I gotta be doing something right. And when we take something off, there's very, very few of ours ever have something come back. But it can happen. So here's my promise. If it comes back, we'll take it off a second time, free of charge. Why is that significant? Well, you want it off, number one. Number two, because the law says if you take it off twice, they can't put it back a third time. And I don't charge them for the second time. Okay? My score went to 827. I'm telling you, I looked through that window as they were pulling up my score. Their eyes got big as saucers. And then I called the shots. I told them I knew what the best interest rate was. That's what I want. I'm not putting any money down. I didn't have to. And I said, if that sales manager comes over here and tries to bump my price, I'll get up and leave. I won't acknowledge him and I won't tell you goodbye. He said, nobody's going to bother you. Okay? You've got power with a good credit score. We're very successful. We do what we say. The average time it takes to clean someone's credit is 6 to 9 months. We get at least 300 every year where everything comes off the first time. 1 month, it's gone. I got to tell you, one lady came to see me. She was very skeptical. I mean, extremely skeptical, and I usually don't have time for skeptics. I just don't have the time. It takes a lot of time to talk them into it. But for some reason that day, I talked her into it. I didn't realize she had 35 lines of credit we had to take off. 35. And guess, I've never seen this before. She had 6 bankruptcies on there. Now, you're saying, some of you, you can't have that many, but you can file that many times. You can file as often as you want to, but you can't go through it 6 times. She was so skeptical, but listen to this. In 1 month, her credit was totally clean. Now, before this happened, I looked at her and I said, see, I hit skeptical people right between the eyes. I said, you're skeptical for one of 2 reasons. Number one, you don't trust anyone because you can't be trusted. I tell them. And I said, the other reason is, you've been taken advantage of all your life. Which one are they going to claim? But listen, it took 1 month and everything. She had some of everything you can imagine on her credit. It was all cleaned up the first month, and I saved that one to show everybody that comes in my office. Because now, if you were to say something bad about me in front of her, she would kill you. As much as she was a skeptic, now she's that much of a believer. And she's since moved, her and her husband, to Virginia, and they still call me every now and then and thank me and send me new clients. By word of mouth, we have gone to all 50 states and 16 foreign countries. This is what I tell people when they come to see me. We don't know how fast we'll clean your credit. We have a good 300 every year that are done the very first month. But before you get too excited, I'm processing that much every week. Okay? I want you to know both sides, and I tell every client this way. I don't sugarcoat things. If they know the truth, if somebody tells you they can build you a house in 3 months and it takes them a year, would you be mad? I would. Listen, the credit bureaus put a late payment on my car, and it cost me, get this, because I didn't have any bad credit, figure that. It cost me 110 points for one late payment. Your first late payment is usually 100 to 150 points. I was 2 payments ahead. Being the Christian person I am, I calmed down after 4 hours. I called them, okay? And I was very sweet, and I said, look, I think you guys made a mistake. And the lady looked it up, and she, oh my goodness, we did make a mistake. And she fixed it, and I got my 110 points back. The number one thing that's bad on your credit is late payments. Number 2 is the amount of debt Late payments account for up to 35% of your score, and debt accounts for 30%. Those are the two biggest things. Can we do some things to increase your score? Absolutely. And I'm here to inform you today, if we do all this business for you and all the people that are watching, we're going to set up a special section of this company that's just going to be dedicated to you people. Okay? Now, why is that important? Because you're dealing in the real estate market, and I can take off a collection off of your credit report that's got a zero balance, and your score will go down. You got to know you want to take off things that are causing your score to go up. A lot of people in credit repair don't know what they're doing. 98% of them don't know what they're doing. The majority of those are not good people, but some of them are good people. Okay? They're just doing what they know, all they know to do. They don't have the inside access I have. One attorney called me up and he says, "You can't do this." I said, "Yes, I can." He says, "I know you can't." I said, "I know I can." He said, "I've been to school, I know the law, and I know you can't do it." I said, "Well, wait a minute. I've been to school, I know the law, I work for them. I know I can." And he started all over, and I said, "Wait a minute. Do you have somebody in your office that wants to use me instead of you, and it's got you upset?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." I said, "Let's solve this." I said, "He's in your office right now." And he said, "Yes." I said, "I'll come to your office and prove to you in front of him I can do what I say. One condition." He said, "What's that?" I said, "You don't say a word while I'm talking. When I get through, you can talk, and I won't interrupt you." And he hesitated. I said, "You're a turf." He said, "Come on down." And so I went. And I proved to them, and this is the only time in my life I give away secrets. I don't give away secrets. But I got in front of them, and here he was, and he was sitting there to listen. And this guy he was like 6'4". He had this reddish complexion and red and gray hair. Okay, and if you get them too mad, they're going to look like a thermometer. Right? And so I'm telling him how this thing works and showing him and proving it to him. And he's sitting there turning redder and redder and redder. And when we got through, or when I got through, I just stopped, and he looked at me and he says, You're just taking advantage of the law." And I said, What is it you do for a living?" The guy stood up, pointed at me, and says, "I'm going with you." And he never got a chance to say another word. So that's a true story. I'm sorry I gave him some, but he understood. I knew what I was talking about, and I could do it. Okay? Most people in credit repair, all they're going to do is send in challenging letters and disputing something, and that's the end of it. Listen, do you know that when they put a judgment on your credit report, there's a 12-point process, and if they don't follow all 12 points, you can cite what they missed and get it off? And there's not a lawyer in this country that goes all 12 points? And do you know, now this is in the past, but I'm still going to tell you how I started with this. If you have a bankruptcy and you had it here in Jacksonville, I would make my complaint about your bankruptcy in St. Louis. And I knew, because we had offices all over the country, someone had to be sent from St. Louis to Jacksonville to check on it. And they'd go right straight to the warehouse where all the records were. But before they got there, I would order those records to the courthouse. And so they're not there. And that's the only place they check, and they go back and say, there is no records, take it off his credit report. I called the courthouse and said, you can put them back. I decided I don't need to see them after all. It's good to know how things work. But it's true. Listen, in this business, everybody wants to get ahead. We've got to do what we can do to make things better for ourselves. I don't know about you. I'm not waiting on Congress and the senators and everybody else to make things better for me. I think they're making them worse. Okay? And I think all people are special. See yourself as special. You deserve more, but you have to know you deserve more. Your customers need to know you deserve more. They deserve more. And you can put more and more people in homes by cleaning up their credit. Now, I'm in the business of helping people who will help themselves. If they won't do their part, I can't help them. And you know what their part is? They got to send me everything that comes to them in the mail from the 3 credit bureaus. Don't sign anything. Don't fill out anything. Don't trust the credit bureaus either. They send you a letter that says, are you doing business with a credit repair company? Do you think they're charging you too much? Would you fill out our questionnaire? If you fill that out, you just admitted you're doing credit repair, and now they can legally stop it. What a joke. If you don't admit it, you can clean it, but if you do admit it, they can stop it. You don't converse with them. If anybody ever calls you and wants to talk to you about your Social Security number and tells you they're from the credit bureau, that doesn't happen. And you don't discuss that over the phone. Somebody's trying to steal your identity. These are important things. Now, what can I do? I can erase bankruptcies, liens, judgments, collections, charge-offs, repossessions, late payments, school bills, child support, anything that's negative, but there's one thing I don't work on. Chapter 13, bankruptcy in progress. The reason is if I take it off, it's coming right back. And if I take it off again, it's coming right back. And it'll keep coming back until it's over with. Now, once it's over and it's gone. It won't come back. A chapter 7, no problem. Because that's over. You know, once it's discharged, we get it off of there, and nobody will ever know you went through one. Let's see my teleprompter, in case I forgot something. My wife gave me a list. I've been in business for over 20 years. I love what I do. I don't know how many people love what they do for a living, but I love what I do. People come in my office every day and thank me because they bought a home they'd never been able to buy before. That's rewarding. I don't agree with the credit bureaus for punishing people 7 to 10 years. I mean, think about it. There's people who commit murder and get out of prison quicker. Last time I checked, that was a more serious crime. All people need is a second chance. If any of you go to church, God is a God of second chances. And God is a God of restoration. And that's what we're talking about doing for anybody who needs credit repair. But you must do your part. And there's one thing I won't do, and that's someone comes to me for their credit to be cleaned up. I won't call them and tell them to send me that stuff. They're either going to do it on their own, or they're not going to get it done. That's all they got to do. I do all the work, but everything comes to them every month. And I got to tell you, I had a little couple come to my office not long ago. About 21, they're holding hands, just got married, and just so proud that they're taking the bull by the horns, and they want to get their credit cleaned up and start off their life right. And I said, now let me tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to order your credit reports, me. I want the kind that come to them in the mail because there's codes and phone numbers and things that you can't get over the internet. So I said, when they come in, usually 5 to 20 days, you get them to me. And then the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to have an update, and it's going to show you what came off. And I looked at that little girl, and I said, I got to warn you. When you see that stuff coming off, you're going to want to leave him for me. And I'm happily married. And he busted out laughing, and I looked at him and said, what you laughing at? You're going to want to leave her for me too. There's nothing like seeing your credit get cleaned up, because it makes you feel good inside, and if you feel good inside, it reflects to the outside. Right? This is an important area, and I know there's people who tell you things in credit repair every day. We followed a girl home one day. She was telling us she was the expert. I didn't tell her I was in credit repair, but somebody followed her home, found out she lived in some park somewhere in her station wagon. That's not too successful. That's not to judge someone. I know she's trying to do the best she can, but she has no track record except to say that she was great at credit repair. And I hope much success to her. People can say anything, but I've been in this business for 23 years, and I can prove anything. That's a big difference. We are also in the process right now of starting a new website, new office, new phone numbers, everything for your company. We are going to be dedicated to you. And part of our name is going to have global in it. Okay? So this is going to be totally separate. We have a... Ron, am I supposed to give this phone number out? We have a phone number for you to call if you decide you want to get credit repair done.
No, we're passing out order forms.
Oh, you're passing out the order forms. Okay, so you got everything. Okay. A little bit more about me. I am a dedicated Christian. I'm not a one-day-a-week Christian. I know you can deal with people who mention God every day and they do anything but godly things. This is wrong. But I do believe in what we do. I know who put me in this position, and I know that He guides anyone who goes to Him. But it is about restoration. I have a master's degree in theology, and I use it. I am an evangelist, and I travel all over this country preaching in churches. That's my biggest thing. I've spoken to groups of 30,000, and I've spoken to groups of 5 to 10. But I love this. First person, like I said, I cleaned up was me. I got so excited, I said, why am I working for the credit bureau? They don't care about people. They're like the CIA. They care about no one but themselves. And so I got in a position where I could help people. Now, Ron, is there anything else you want me to discuss or cover right now?
Go ahead and tell them what the costs are, and then we'll ask you questions.
Most people in this country charge you, on the average, $500 to $1,500. I have people charging that and sending it to me. I also have people who charge $5,000. I know a lawyer in New York who was $25,000, but she says if you're her friend, she'll do it for half price. I don't want to be her friend. Listen, we charge $4.95, and that's it. There's a one-time fee. Our promise to you is that no matter how much we have to do or how long it takes, we stick with it until the job's done. There's no time limit, and we don't ask for more money. One exception. You do your part. If you don't send us this paperwork every month like you're supposed to, and then you stop and you let it go 6 straight months, it's over. The only way you'll start back then is to pay again. We can only help those who will help themselves. You understand? Yeah. There's some things we're going to need. Copy of your driver's license, readable copy, or state ID if you don't have a driver's license. I run into those occasionally. I need 2 proofs of your address. Well, no, but I'm just telling you, and you'll find all this out, and 2 proofs of your social. One thing they won't use for your social is your tax return. It can be a W-2, 1099, Social Security card, things of that nature. Okay. Anyhow, if you just get those filled out and get them to us, and we'll tell you everything you need to do. Now that we do want to enter Canada, we need, and I'd love for somebody who's there that can get me all the addresses, but we may be able to look them up on the internet anyhow. And we should know something in about a month that we can handle all Canadian credit.
Canadians, if you're on this call,
you want to know if you have a client of yours that you want to get cleaned up. Then we will charge them the same $4.95 and send you a $200 referral fee. Yes. That good? Now let me tell you something. There's another point. There's another point I didn't make, and it just came back to me, and my wife would remind me that I didn't make it. Anybody can go out there and clean their own credit. But now, let me tell you what's not so good about that. They encourage you to use the internet to do it. If you don't know how to do this, you're locking that stuff on your credit. You'll get a few things off, and then all of a sudden you start getting these letters, and we've already done this, we're not doing it again. Every month. You can't break through it because it's all automated, and people don't even deal with it. I don't do it that way. I make people deal with mine, and they get tired of it, and if that's the only way I can get it off is to get them tired, they let it go. Okay, I'll wear them out if necessary, but I use a whole lot of other techniques to get this stuff off. Don't do it. Don't go on the internet to try to clean up your credit. Now that also will make it harder for me to get it off. If you've already done credit repair and then you come to us, it's going to be harder to get off, but we will break through and get it. Okay, it's just going to take longer.
Aaron, they can't hear me unless I'm near your mic.
Okay.
On the internet. Okay. So let me say it again, Canadians. We're going to email you the form. You send it back. And now what you just heard him say was, if you guys want to use this for your own buyers, you see, you have two choices. You can charge them for it, or you can pay for it for them. So if you're paying for it for them, it's $2.95 out of your pocket. If you charge them $4.95, he's got to collect the whole amount now, and then he'll send you back $200. You got all that?
And talk to me more about it, and I'll explain this process to you.
All right. So I hope we can. All right, the question was, how does he send somebody else's application to you?
By mail. No. We're going to give you all the information. You're going to have that number. We're just not going to cover all that right here. But you'll have all the information about where to send it, who to send it to, what you need to send with it. We got all the forms ready.
So they just give them the forms and let them submit it.
Yeah. And they cover all these different points. You're going to have them initial off each point that you cover these things with them. You know, we're not halfway doing this. We want to make sure we cover ourselves and that they know how this thing works.
So they turn the client over to you. You give them the speech.
Right.
And then they're either going to do it or they're not going to do it. But to tell you, Joe and I were having a conversation in lunch. Once Joe puts somebody in the house, he pays for the credit repair for them. And I just made a simple suggestion to him. Well, Joe, why are you doing that? Why don't you say you'll pay for it for them, but add $25 to their rent and let them pay it back to you over time instead of just giving it to them. And of course, their price is $4.95.
There's all kinds of ways.
Not the $2.95, because that's still a huge service for them.
That's right.
In fact, do you realize for $500 lousy dollars you can go from poor credit to good credit? The world doesn't know this. By the way, I'm your next application.
I'll see if I can catch you a deal.
Yeah, you better. Let me take Jay right over here.
For our tenant buyers that we refer to you, who's collecting the money?
Well, you collect it, I guess, and we'll work that.
Tenant buyers paying
If the tenant is paying, I think you better collect the money.
Okay.
You're delivering the service.
All right.
Especially if there's a credit card involved.
Yeah, and then you send check.
Right.
You guys will work that out.
Are foreclosures and short sales things that can be cleaned up from the credit?
Absolutely.
Foreclosures and short sale things can be cleaned up in credit.
Yeah. recently I had someone who had all the bad credit off, but his score was still kind of low, and he said, "Can you take this off?" And I said, "Why do you want that taken off?" And it was good credit, not a bad mark on it, but it was charged up. So I took it off, and his score went up.
You know, you made a point yesterday that sometimes if you take stuff off your credit report, score actually goes down.
Yeah.
Could you reiterate that?
Yeah. I had a person who came to me with 10 lines of credit. 10 of them were collections. All 10 collections were paid off, zero balances showing on his credit report. The other 10, the good pieces of credit, were 10 credit cards, all charged up to the max. When I took the 10 collections off, his score went down because you're graded on everything on your credit. And those zero balances were actually helping him, but the 10 collections weren't. Now, if he wants his score up, he can pay off his credit cards and he'll go over 800. But the number one thing on your credit, if you charge it up, that's going to hurt you the worst, is revolving credit. You know, installment credit doesn't hurt you as bad as involvement credit. So those credit cards should never be charged more than 30% if you can help it. But you should use them. The reason you use them 10 to 30% constantly and paying them off, whatever, is because the credit card companies gave you these things to use them. If you're going to be idle with them too long, they're going to take them away from you. And if you're using them, they're going to keep increasing your limit. The higher your limit goes, the higher your score goes.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought the higher your limit, the lower your score.
No. The more, see, all your credit limits are added together. Now, if you're about to buy a house, don't you ever tell somebody to cancel something with a credit limit because your score is coming down. The debt on, let's say that credit card had a debt and you cancel that credit card. The debt stays there. The amount of credit lowers. The closer you are, the lower your score.
You mentioned something yesterday about this book club or something.
Oh, yes.
I don't have any credit.
If you want to, there's a company, you want to write this down. Just write this down. OX Publishing.com. This is a book company who sells you books over the internet. And they'll give you they won't give it to you, you'll pay for it. But let's say that you got $500 and you want to do something to improve your credit score. You can go and get this secured card for $500 and you can get one from Millennium Bank in New York and they won't even pull your credit and they'll report it like it's unsecured. So they maximize your points. However, you can take that same $500 and give it to Ox Publishing and they won't pull your credit and they'll give you a revolving credit line of $5,000, which is going to help you a whole lot more, and report it to all 3 bureaus for that same $500. $5,000 is going to increase your score a lot more than that $500. And they take about 100 of it, and you have to buy about $100 worth of books, which is what makes this legal. And the other money is for paying to put that credit score on all 3 credit bureaus. So that's one way you could, and in most cases that raises a person's score from like 25 to 50 or 75 points.
How many points can you raise a credit score from the Prince of Darkness to the Prince?
Well, there's some of them that go all the way down to like 350 and up to roughly 850. But all 3 credit bureaus are a little different. Okay, they're alike but have little differences. But that's your general range. Now, when one person puts, let's say, Ox Publishing on their credit report, they may get 25 points. Your wife may put it on there, or your husband may put it on there and get 50 points. See, you're rated with everything that's on your credit. Okay, and husbands and wives don't always have the same things on there. I had one couple come to me, and this guy had 30 things that had to come off, and they all came off the first month. His wife had 5 simple things, and it took me a year to get them off. I tell you like it is. I mean, we don't promise the time. We do promise the job. Okay?
What about inquiries?
What about inquiries?
Oh, listen. I'm getting excited now. Somebody I used to get inquiries off so easy. Up until about a year ago, the credit bureaus started breaking the law again. They do this quite often. See, the Federal Trade Commission goes them, and when they do something illegal and you write a letter to the Federal Trade Commission that says, we don't care. Or they slap their hand. That's about it. There's not much governing going on. But I recently got a call, can't tell you where, and now they're going to allow me to take off inquiries, all 3 credit bureaus, again, me, not everybody, because they haven't had a formal complaint about me in 23 years. Inquiry.
Middle of a foreclosure or short sale, should you wait?
No, here's the thing. Let's say that you're in the middle of that, or a bankruptcy, Chapter 7, or you're about to do this and you come to me and say, should I wait until I finish this? You don't have to, but you can if you want to. If you tell me what's about to come down, I'll go ahead and mark that and take care of it when it hits. But anything new that I don't know about, I'm not responsible for. Just what's up to that date when we get started. Otherwise, I won't get through with some people. You know, we're in the business of helping those who want to help themselves. And the inquiries can cost you like 1 to 5 points each. That can be dramatic. And some of you have deals that are just 15 or 20 points away. You get the inquiries off, you got your deal. Ooh, nice. 2 years. They're the most dangerous in the first year, all the points against them in the first year. The second year, you lose about half the points, and then after 2 years, they're supposed to fall off.
On page 45, we're on now page 46 and 47. And if you've got my cash flow system, my Pretty House cash flow system, you've certainly seen this application and receipt agreement before, but I'm going to assume that you don't. And quickly just tell you what it is, and you can sit down and read it when you get a chance, because I'm not going to sit here and read it. This is a work of art. It is a beautiful document that was created many years ago to collect a deposit. It's actually just that. It's an agreement concerning their deposit. Now, the key factors are, it says, I'll take your deposit, and if I accept you, then I'll apply it. If I don't accept you, I'll give it back. But it also says, if I accept you for this house, and I take your deposit, and then you back out on me, then you won't get it back. So, this agreement nowhere says that I will take my house off the market and let you tie it up while I process you to see if I want you. It says I'll take your deposit and apply it, if applicable, or give it back if I can't get you in a house. So this is the same agreement that you'd want to use when you're doing Joe's program as well on his down payment growth. If they give you money, you're making them no promise except to give it back if they want it until they apply it to a house, and then it is non-refundable. Or apply it to a house if you find them one. Everybody got that? You can take 5 of these on one house and not take it off the market, and should. You do not take your house off the market until the day they go to the attorney's office to sign the paperwork and fill out and give them the rest of the money. Because I promise you, if you do, if you take your house off the market today, tomorrow somebody's going to come along and give you a great big old deposit. And you should always leave yourself free to take that deposit. You can always call this person back and say, listen, I cannot take your deposit on that house. I had a much better qualified person. However, I will find you another one, or if you wish, I'll give you your deposit back. And that's how you handle it. That's how you handle it. I wished I'd had this in the beginning. I can't tell you how many times I put a contract on a house and somebody better came along, and here I'm bound because I've got a purchase and sale agreement signed by my buyer. And just so you'll know, there is no purchase and sale agreement signed by your tenant buyers until they go to your attorney's office and sign the lease option document that's in your book. Only then are you bound to put them in this house. All right, getting the buyer to the closing table with owner financing and a lease purchase. On page 48, step-by-step process. A, you get the application and you have your meeting. And you collect all the facts that you're going to collect. And if you're going to put them into the credit repair program, you can do it right then and there if you want to get them started right there. Fill out the form, and if they're going to pay for it, just forward it on to Marion. If you're going to pay for it, still forward it on with a check. Either way. However, you certainly aren't paying for their credit till you get some of their money, are you? No, I wouldn't. Absolutely not. All right, have a mortgage broker pull a credit report, see what you're dealing with. If you like it, you move on. If you don't, you move out. If it's a go, you simply, I usually do it from the meeting. Pick up the telephone, call the attorney, and arrange the closing right then and there, 2 or 3 days from now, set a time, and then I put my buyer on the telephone with the legal assistant or whoever, and he or she tells them what to bring to the closing in addition to what they already know to take. I set it up right there before they leave the room, and everybody knows what they got to do. And then there's nothing else for you to do except take out your yellow pad and write your attorney a note. And the note usually goes something like this. Lease option, buyer's name, both names, address, monthly payment, monthly rent, option term, and anything else that you've got. What you do is you take this agreement in the back of your book back here and you scan the blanks. And you fill in, you don't fill in the blanks, but you tell your attorney what to fill in the blanks with that are back here. It's that simple. And then if you have the repair page attached with the repairs that it's got to be done, that's going to become an addendum back here, so you send that to him as well. Add this on, this will be an addendum. You can have that repair agreement signed right there at your meeting, or you can wait and have the attorney do it at the closing. Frankly, I really don't care as long as you have a meeting of the mind, because you're not going to be at the closing. It's going to be done without your presence. So you should make sure that there's nothing else that will create a problem, and you've covered anything that they might not have been told that they should have been told. So, again, well, I use the word closing loosely. Is it really a closing? What is it? It's a lease signing party, is what it is. That's all it is. They're just signing a lease with the option to buy. There's no closing per se. Now, getting them to cash out. You see, that's the part that's going to require some follow-up on your part. Some organizational skills, some timing, some time activating. I got this buyer in my house, and I know when they're supposed to be doing the work, and I know what they're supposed to be doing. From time to time, somebody's got to check on them to see if they're moving along. I know that Marion's supposed to be cleaning their credit. How about a phone call to Marion's office? Hey, are these folks communicating with you? How are they doing? Are they sending you what they're supposed to send you, or what? And of course, if they are, great. You should congratulate them. If they aren't, what should you do? Climb all over them. You guys want to buy this house or not? You know what? If they won't send him simple stuff for him to clean up their credit, what does that tell you about their chances of ever getting cashed out? They won't. They never will. So if they never will, does that help you make the decisions that have to be made when it comes time to decide whether you want to renew their term or not, or whether you want to actually evict them when they don't do what they say? Because if they won't send him the stuff that he needs, they won't do anything else they say either. All right, it is that human nature. That's human nature. Better get over it, because that's exactly what you're going to run across. You got to hold people accountable. You got to make them do what they say, and you got to follow up and see that it gets done. Especially with these type of buyers, they actually have to have a mommy to move them through the system, or they'll never make it to the other end. Somebody's got to be with them the whole way, telling them what to do, coaching them, making them feel good, congratulating them, but also making them send the stuff in that they got to do. And this is assuming they're paying the rent, of course, because if they're not paying the rent, you've already got a problem, don't you? If they're not paying the rent, you might as well understand they're not going to buy. The sooner you get them out, the better. They're silently begging to be led. Lead them. This page is easy. Just put Marion. Done. Send to Marion. If you've been around me long, you know that I'm a strong advocate in letting other people do what they do best so I can do what I do best. Anybody in this room experts at cleaning credit? You know what? Even if you are, it's a lousy business. Get out of it. Let him do it. The same way you should let somebody else negotiate your short sales. The same way you hire contractors to renovate houses and you don't touch them with your hands. The same way you get John and Donna to mail out yellow letters for you and you don't lick stamps. The quicker you understand that you have no business doing this grunt work crap that you're not qualified to do, the quicker you will be able to spend more time doing the things that you're not only qualified but must do, and that's generate deals. Nobody's going to go make offers for you. You're going to have to do that yourself. But I'll tell you, from that point on, all of this crap can be done for you. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. And should be done for you. And frankly, there's not much for you to do in the process of making offers. If you'll listen. Will you listen? Will you listen? Yes. Sure you will. All right, page 51. You may not cash out for 100% of the sales price. Now look, if he can get their credit cleaned up, if he can get their credit score above 620, and they have a good provable income, there's no reason you can't cash out for 100% of the sales price. The difference between what they're giving you for down payment and an FHA or whatever, USDA or bond type loan, and you guys in Canada got the same thing. You can get them in there with 5% down. So, if you let him do his job, you won't have to worry about this. But if their credit doesn't get to the point to where they can qualify for that FHA loan, there's going to be times when you might want to get them a loan of a lower loan-to-value ratio, such as an 85% loan, take whatever they got down, and take back a second mortgage for the balance. Understand that this type of housing sometimes requires those second mortgages. It's not a big problem. It's not a big deal. It's free money to you. You're really after the cash that's coming to the closing table from the loan you can get. Whatever high loan-to-value ratio you can get, that's what you're really after. You're after that cash, and that extra second mortgage is kind of a bonus. And just so you'll know, you probably won't collect it. So in reality, you've probably sold the property for about 90% of its value, or 90% of its sales price, because you may never collect that top end 10%. How do you think I know this? You know, I've done dozens and dozens of these little seconds, and rarely do you collect one. They just won't or can't pay it, that's all. And you don't do anything about it. It ain't worth foreclosing on, for sure. It's not worth the hassle. You just write it off and get over it. All right, here's another option on page 52 to further enhance our ability to make this the best kind of exit strategy that we can. We need all options on the table that are available to us. And since they're in this nice little book, you can refer back to them and know when the time is right. You buy the materials. Now, if you ever want a big buyer's list, if you want a rabid herd of buyers to flood you, you just let it be known that if you can do the work, I'll furnish the materials, and you're going to have a big list to sift and sort through. Now, you don't have to go this way, but it is an option. So let's take a look at it. Let's say they will do the work with their hands, but you need $3,000 worth of materials to complete the job. You can say to them, okay, I'll put up the money in stages. But guys, you better not break this rule. Under no circumstances do you ever give somebody a check for $1,000 and tell them to go buy materials. Well, you could once. And then you'll understand why you won't do it again. The only condition, the main condition is if I'm going to put up the money for the materials, they're going to put up that first draw out of their pocket and go buy those materials and plant them in the house. And they must be attached to the house before I'm going to give them back their $1,000 so they can buy the second batch. And under no circumstances am I going to give them a check to go to the store with, and or am I going to call Home Depot and have them deliver materials to the house. No, no, no. Materials delivered to a house make easy things to sell to buy drugs with. I want them to buy the materials out of their pocket at their risk, and I want them to permanently affix them to my house, and then it must be inspected, and then and only then I may choose to give them back that $1,000 that they spent, and then only if they got the slips to prove that they spent the money on those materials. And just for the record, somebody better be taking a look at those slips, because some of them probably will not match the stuff that came to that house. Not that they would try to cheat you or anything, but just so you make sure the materials you're getting the slips for match the house. And you know, the easy thing to do is to let them know that you are watching them so that they don't try to take advantage of you to begin with and don't back themselves in the corner so they have to save face. If they know you're watching them, they probably won't try to skin you. All right. Getting some items done yourself and fronting the money for the materials. There are going to be times when you are going to want to do some of the work, or I don't want to ever see you, but if you touch a house, if you lay a hand on a house, the only thing you're ever going to touch on a house is the door handle. I promise you, I'm going to come appear in your bedroom at 3 a.m. in the morning on it with a ghostly image and a hammer if I ever catch you physically working on a house. Incredibly dumb thing to do. But I just can't afford to hire somebody to do it. There's a reason you can't afford it. It's because you're doing the work yourself. You can't afford it because you haven't raised the money to buy and fix the house like you should to begin with. You can't afford it because your business model stinks. You think laying hands on a house is going to help you somehow save money. The absolute opposite is true. Fixing it yourself is going to cost you a fortune when you add up all the other things that you lost while you're putting your time into that house, including the next deal that your competition got while you were busy painting. All right. Sometimes you're going to find them, and they're going to have things that are hard to get consumers to repair. For example, suppose the house really got a rotten roof on it. All right, that's going to deter a lot of owner occupants, because unless they're a roofer, that is, if they're a roofer, it won't bother them at all. In fact, you only hope that you can get a roofer that wants to live in this house and become your next tenant buyer. Because it's rare when you can find somebody that'll come in and have this roof put on this house, especially when they're buying the materials, if they don't know anything about roofs. So you may have to have the roof replaced yourself either before or during the repair process. If you want to close on it, it'd probably be best you wouldn't replace a roof on a house you don't own. But if you want to close on it first and then replace the roof, so be it. Or you can just advertise it. Owner will replace roof, and then when the tenant buyers come, in fact, that's what I would do, guys, because I would not replace the roof until I had to. Let me play the market a while. Let me find out if somebody will put that roof on there, and if they will, come on. But if they won't, and I'm tired of shopping, then I'll say, all right, I'll put the roof on, you do everything else. And we just add that to our agreement. And the same with central heat and air conditioning, for example. You know, it's a pretty hefty expense. A little harder to get people to install those because they know it's a pretty hefty expense, and there's nothing really they can do to shave off the cost of them. They cost what they cost. Paint, that's easy. You can go out to Home Depot and buy it a gallon at a time. How do you buy a central air conditioning system a gallon at a time? You don't. So they got to come up with a pretty good chunk of money. So those things that they have to come up with big chunks of money to do, sometimes you're going to have to do yourself. Everybody got that? All right. Okay, and that's why when you're doing these houses subject to, you got to be careful about taking on those big expensive jobs, because you may not find that tenant buyer that is willing to take on that responsibility. But at least you can just give those back or never buy them. Hard to give back a house you got a private loan on and funded But at least you got the money to fix it if you did that. Now, let's say a tenant buyer does come along that wants to put on a roof. Should the roof be installed by someone who's qualified to install a roof? Oh, for crying out loud. Don't you even think about letting anybody get up on your roof unless they are a roofer, unless they have a license, and unless they are going to get it permitted and do it right. So therefore, your tenant buyer's got to convince you that a roofer is going to put the roof on, that is capable of doing so, or you don't want them to do it. Same with central heating and air. You don't want a guy who drives a truck for a living to install a central heating and air conditioning system, because it ain't going to work. And if it is, somebody else is going to have to come out and fix it. All right. Buying materials to be installed by others is a risky game, and it takes tight internal controls to make that happen. Be very careful about, if you just think through it like this: I don't ever want my tenant buyer to get ahead of me. When I hire a contractor, I'm at risk one time in the whole game. I'm at risk when I give them that first draw, because you're going to probably have to give them the first draw before they do any work. But at least they're a licensed contractor and you can hold them accountable. You can't, a tenant, all you can do is a victim. But when I give that contractor that first draw, before they come back to get that second draw, I want to know that they've done enough work to equal what I'm giving them on the first and the second draw combined. So if it's a $15,000 job and the first draw is $5,000, before they come get another $5,000, I want $10,000 worth of work done on that house. And from that point on, contractor's never ahead of me. I'm paying them for work after it's been completed. And in that regard, if I got a $15,000 job, I'm not giving them $5,000 up front. I might give them $2,500 up front if I don't know them. I want to lessen my risk up front, see if they get the work done, and I'll cut that into more draws. Now, if I know them and I have a track record with them, I'll probably give them more up front, at least until they screw me, because they will sooner or later. Sounds like I got a bad feeling about contractors, doesn't it? No, I love contractors. The ones that get the job done. All right, handling inspections. I'm hoping that you're not going to personally be doing this, but for your first few deals you may. If you will let me, I will train you how to run your business so you will never be doing this, and pretty much everything else. But they have to be inspected. You cannot take the tenant's word for it that anything is getting done. Somebody's got to go look at it. So if it's not going to be you, it better be somebody you trust. And that ought to be somebody that is strong enough to get the job done, not be easily intimidated, and understands what a kitchen cabinet looks like. It can't be your 15-year-old daughter. It needs to be somebody that has a clue whether that thing is installed or not installed, because they understand what that thing is. I hope you get what I'm talking about. They don't have to be some kind of contractor or anything, but they can't be clueless either. So inspections are mandatory. They're not something that you request or something that you require. And again, you remind the tenant, if I'm coming out, if I send somebody, it's $100. Are you sure you want me to do that? And guys, just for the record, if you get around to hiring a salesperson, this is their job, not your job. Ryan will be doing any of our inspections. I won't do them. I'm not going to the house. I'm not going back to the house. I don't care what the repair work looks like. I just care that we get the loan closed. You know the house that we closed on this past Monday? I have never seen it renovated. And my guess is now, I never will. What happens if the work is not done on time? Oh my. What that probably should say is, what do we do when the work is not done on time? Well, this is kind of an internal business decision that you have to make. And there are several choices. Number one, you can evict them for non-performance. Not what I'd do, but you can. About the only time that I'd ever evict a tenant for not doing the work is if they're not paying the rent. But that's my choice. You may not agree with that decision. You may need to cash out of that thing more than me. You may not be able to live with the fact that that tenant did not keep their promise and get that work done. May keep you awake at night. I could care less. But I understand everybody isn't as tolerant as me. What are you laughing at? Or you can charge them a penalty. Now listen, if they haven't got the work done, they violated the agreement. Once they violate the agreement, charge them anything you want. They either pay it or leave. You don't have to have it in the front end agreement to levy a charge once they're in default. You're in default. I'll let you stay, but you got to do X. Put up more money, raise your rent. And incidentally, if they're not going to get the work done, I am going to raise their rent very early in the game. I put them in a house for $600, and I know that house could rent for $1,000 fixed. And I give them 3 months, and they don't get the work done, and they're violating their agreement. I'm at least going to raise the rent probably to $800. If they're going to putz around with it, let them putz around with it at a higher price. In other words, there should be some kind of a penalty if they don't comply. Incidentally, if there is no penalty and you don't enforce any penalty, what will happen? Whatever's been happening will continue to happen because you didn't take any action to fix it, and that is your fault, my friend, not their fault. If you let them get away with it, they'll get away with it. This is why it didn't take me long to learn, make the rules, get them in writing, get a clear understanding, but then you got to enforce them. Because if you don't, they're worthless. You can send them a notice and offer an extension if you want, or you can do nothing, which is probably what I'd do, just because they didn't get the work done, as long as they're paying their rent. I got 2 tenants that I put in houses 12 years ago. Now, they were in pretty good shape when I put them in it, but from day one they were told that after the first 30 days they were responsible for 100% of the repairs. I haven't touched those 2 houses in 12 years. In fact, I don't even know where one of them is. I've only been to it once, and the other one I only know where it is because it's 2 blocks from my office. I have not done 1 dime's worth of repair on those houses in 12 years. So, what do I care? Well, Ron, how do you know the house is in good shape? Well, I don't. But I don't care. They keep paying the rent. When they quit paying the rent, and they will, then I'll go have somebody take a peek. Now, am I sure that when they move out, I'm going to have to do some work? Yeah, you know, the price you have to pay to get a 12-year tenant. What can I say? If I have to go do work, well, go get the work done. Then what are we going to do? Put another tenant buyer in there, collect a few $1,000s, start all over. And try to break the last record. Make somebody in there longer than 12 years. Incidentally, did they have the right to buy?
Yes.
Did they exercise it? Nope. Whose fault is it? Theirs. Their option expired 11 years ago. Don't tell them. Their choice, not my choice. Now, but did I move them because they didn't get the work done or because they didn't buy it? No, I didn't. In fact, one of them's paid off the house for me. All right. Avoiding defaults. There's 2 big things that I look for. There's no way to avoid 100%. In fact, in this Work for Equity program is going to be the highest default rate of anything you're going to do in real estate. But avoiding them, there's two very important things. Number one is the amount of money you get out of them up front. More money you get up front, less you got to worry about them. That's why it pays you to play the market. Don't get in a rush. Don't back yourself into a corner. If it takes you 3 months to find a tenant buyer you like and you don't have a monthly payment, so what? Relax. Chill. Keep the buyer's list coming. Put a bigger ugly sign in front of it. Do some more emails. Drive some more traffic to your website. Somebody's going to come along and they're going to want that house. Secondly, the ability to pay. I very closely watch their income. If they cannot pay, they cannot go. It just makes common sense to me. Don't stretch them. I don't really want their total monthly payments to exceed 50% of their income. And frankly, I hate it when it's that high because I know we got to make some adjustments before we're ever going to get them to a cash out closing table. All right. Handling defaults from tenant buyers. Handling defaults. Since we know we're going to have some, what are we going to do when they occur? The answer? Easy. We're going to call her. Well, first we're going to send them a notice, which is probably going to be your 3-day notice. And then we're going to turn them over to our attorney. I'm going to recommend to you that you have an attorney close every single real estate transaction that you do, buying and selling. And of course you're going to ignore me, but at your own peril. Now if you're buying a house for all cash, you could say, well, I don't need an attorney for that. You could, couldn't you? Until you do need an attorney for it and wished you'd have done it with an attorney who cost a few $100s to protect your hiney. You have no idea what you're getting into when you buy it for all cash. When you buy it for all cash, who's looking at that title policy to see if there's something on there that shouldn't be on there? You? What do you know about reading title policies? You can't even speak title policy language. You don't have no idea that if that thing says something in legalese that you don't really understand. Perhaps you ought to let an attorney read the title policy and tell you it's clean. And then close it for you and watch over you for a lousy few $100s, even if you're paying all cash. But what if I'm selling all cash? Same thing. What if you're selling all cash? You will probably do 99 out of 100 of them not have a problem if the title company closes. You only need one to have a problem, and you wish you'd have done it all 100 times. Besides, you can pass those costs on to your buyer. Anytime I can get my buyer or my seller to pay for my attorney, why the heck would I not want to use my attorney? Hello. When a tenant buyer buys your house, who pays for your attorney? They do. They do. It's part of their closing cost. When they go over to sign the lease option agreement, they're told, bring a $300 check to cover the legal fees. I don't pay them. So if I'm not paying them, why on earth would I not want to use them? So if I'm going to use the attorneys to close my transactions, don't they already have almost everything they need to enforce my reaction on my transaction? Mr. Attorney, you close that house over on Park Street. Get out the file. I've sent him a 3-day notice. I'm sending it over to you. Do your thing. And you're done. Of course, you got to tell them when they paid last and how much they're behind. He'll pull out the documents. He's got everything else. And now, if they do want to stay, they have to pay the fee to get the attorney to send them the stuff, to send them the notice. They got to bring in the payment, the late fee, and the attorney cost. And if they don't, they don't. You see, it's a system. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to be out knocking on somebody's door trying to collect rent. Unless you want to die. Because that's a good way to die. You have any idea what's behind that door? You don't know how drugged up they are. You don't even know if they got a meth lab inside there. You don't know anything. Stay away from the house. Don't knock on doors collecting rent. It is very dangerous. Plus, it's aggravating, and you don't want to be involved in those kind of tasks personally, even if you're a one-person show. You don't need to go collect the rent. You send them a notice, and then if they don't reply, you send a notice to your attorney to sic them. Shortly into the deal, you need to send somebody to buy just to make sure they still live in the house. Because if they still live in the house, you don't need to evict them, as long as it's obvious they're gone. But if they're in the house, you tell the attorney, sic him, he'll do what he's supposed to do, which really, you don't even need to know what he's supposed to do. You just need to know it's his turn. And if follow-up gets it done, send somebody by every week or so to make sure they're still in the house. Now they're either going to pay or they're going to move. And if they're going to move during this process. Now somewhere along the line you can get the attorney to write them a letter if you wish, or you can do it prior to even turning it over to the attorney that says something like, listen, I haven't received your rent. I don't want to evict you. Because if I file eviction, it'll immediately go on your credit report, and it will. And it'll stop them from getting financed. You better understand that. If you file eviction, it'll hit the credit report, and they probably won't get financed. Unless you're sick marrying on them. But at this time, I'm so mad at him, I don't care whether he fixes their credit or not. Because I'm going to tell you what I know. When people start getting in the habit of not paying you their rent, you will never get them to the end. The quicker you understand that you can't fix human nature, and you understand that this is nothing more than a business, then the easier it is going to be for you to navigate through all this crap without letting it personally upset you. There is nothing that tenant buyer is going to do that's going to bother me. It's not going to cost me any sleep. And believe me, I'm not going to lay around worrying about it. Because, to be honest with you, the minute I put them in the house, I don't expect them to keep their promise. So it's no big shock when they don't. Some do. I'm happy for them. And I'll bend over backwards to help them buy. But I'm not going to get upset when they don't keep their promise. Because many don't. Have you guys ever met anybody that doesn't do what they say? Well, I'm prepared for that. And Joe was right. The whole world is full of crap. Until proven differently. So, here goes the notice. No reply. I could write him a letter and say, listen, I don't want to evict you. Please respond immediately because I'm programmed to turn this over to my attorney for eviction on Friday and I really don't want to do it. If you got a problem, let me help. If you're going to move, tell me now. Save yourself a lot of grief and save your credit. But if you don't contact me, I'm going to assume that you have bad intentions. And if I don't get them contacted back, come on now, if I send them a letter, they're going to get it. But I am not going to go knocking on their door, and nobody in my organization is going to go knocking on their door either. So, they don't get it. Attorney, done. Mr. Attorney, let me know what's going to, let me know what I need to do when. Everybody clear on that? All right. So, how do you handle defaults? You let professionals do what they do best. That's how you handle defaults. Whether it's a tenant or whether it's an owner financed prospect. If it's owner financing, it's a different prospect. Because now you have to send them a notice prior to foreclosure. Just takes a little bit more time, but it's the same process. You send them a notice, they don't respond. Mr. Attorney, sic them. You're done. Hopefully somewhere along the line they'll come to you, you can work it out, or they get out. Now I will tell you, if you're selling them with owner financing, it's always easier to buy them out than to force them out. And I'll almost always do that. Once they understand, of course, that if we don't come together on terms, I will foreclose on you, I will personally get a judgment on you, and I will go after you until I collect that judgment. And if you go into bankruptcy, I will be there to make sure I get my share of all your assets. You will not get rid of me just because you file bankruptcy. And they won't. See, I know all of the nasty things you can do to somebody that they think you can't do just because they're in bankruptcy. And any good bankruptcy attorney does too. I can really make life miserable. And I hate even talking like that, but you know what? If they upset me enough, I might just do so. I'll probably cool down before I get to that point and decide not to, but you know, it's the manly thing to do, isn't it? I don't want to do it, and I can't remember the last time I've ever done it, but I know what I can do, and I just want to make sure that gently and legally they're informed, because you can't threaten them, guys. Don't send them a threatening letter. If you send them a threatening letter, you're just giving them all the evidence they need, and if you're not careful, you can find yourself in a court somewhere, and literally they can overturn the entire debt and make you put them in the position back to where they were when you met them, which means forgive their debt and not return their closing costs. So, I mean, they have to give you the house, but, you know, it's still going to suck. So you don't want to send them any letter until you get the attorney to approve the language in the first one. Anything that even appears to be threatening. So, I'm going to try to get them to cooperate. I'm going to, I say, listen, let's work this out. If you need help, talk to me. See what I can do. If you're going to move, let's work that out so I don't have to take action on you, ruin your credit, and come after you personally. And most of them will respond and will reply. And of course, you make sure that they know that if they move, there's money available to them. And I tell you right now, somebody gives me, say, a $10,000 deposit, man, I'd give them $2,000 or $3,000 back in a heartbeat, rather than have to force them out of the house, because it's going to cost you more than that probably, especially if they get nasty on you. And I'm talking owner financing now, because they could always file bankruptcy, can't they? And if they file bankruptcy, then they can delay this thing for months. So I'm going to bribe them out.